Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start our third day of the INSOP meeting in about 45 minutes. Welcome to all of you who's joining us today. We're going to start shortly. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 12 o'clock in Europe. I'd like to say good morning to everyone who's joining us across the Atlantic. I know we have some speakers today. Scott said that he's joining us from California. Good afternoon to everyone from here in Europe and Africa, and good evening to all of you in Asia, Australia, and Oceania. I'm very pleased to see all of you. This is the third day of our International Network of Soil Pollution, one of the most important days that we have, because today we're gonna decide what we're gonna do, the network we're gonna focus on what kind of activities, on the objectives and who's going to lead those activities and who's going to be the leader of some of the working groups that we have. Let me just share my screen very quickly with you. Okay, so before we start, this is the agenda of today's meeting. Now we're going to have the reflections of what has been done and discussed over the last 2 days, from Tuesday and Wednesday, by our Vice Chair, Dae Ho. Good afternoon, Dae. We see you here. We're going to move then to our item 8, where I'm going to present the working area objectives. Quickly going to show you the activities and deliverables. And then we're going to decide who will be the leader of those working groups that we have. We have received fantastic CVs and candidates, and it all depends on you. We're going to launch the poll, and you need to vote and decide who will be the leader over the next 2 years of those working groups. However, the leader is the leader, but we need your support and participation in all of those working groups, because without you, nothing can be achieved. After the endorsement of the governance and the election of the chairs, we're going to have an open discussion where we encourage all of you to participate and tell us whether you agree with the proposed activities and deliverables they're going to see on the screen. Ravin Aido, our INSOP chair, will brief you in those activities. And then we're going to conclude with the endorsement of the work plan. We have moderator Dr. Dae Ho, who's going to support us in this meeting. However, this is an open discussion. So myself, Ravi, we're going to all step in, and therefore you have the full rights and voice to express your opinion, because again, this is the technical discussion today. Now, over the last 2 days, I received many emails about how to join INSOP workshop. Now, just a quick reminder that anyone can join INSOP network. You just need, all you have to do, you just need to subscribe to our network. You can do that either by Google INSOP file, and you'll be transferred to our webpage where you have the link on how to join. You just click INSOP registration form, or else you can just grab your smartphone and scan this QR code that you see in front of your screen and basically fill out your details in 1 minute by putting your email, because this is the only way how I can reach you, how all of us can reach you and inform you about all the upcoming activities that INSOP is planning, as well as not only INSOP activities, but other related to soil pollution events, conferences, publications. Once in 3 months, so in quarterly updates, I'm sending email to all our registered participants of the INSOP network, where we inform about any activities, any changes related to the INSOP network, or anything that is coming to soil pollution agenda globally. So ladies and gentlemen, registering your email is the only way how I can reach you out and communicate with you on all activities. A quick reminder that this meeting, as the previous 2 meetings, is recorded. All recordings and presentations will be uploaded on our website. Hopefully next week, we will reach you out about this. And in case you have any problems or issues in recording this meeting, please reach out to us via email or in the private chat, and we will address this issue with you. With this respect, ladies and gentlemen, I wish all of us a very fruitful discussion today, because as I said, it's a very important that we will decide what activities we're going to focus on, because at the end, we're all working for you. Well, Dae, that's my welcoming words. Dae, over to you. Please take.
Thank you, Serge. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the 3rd day of INSOP annual meeting. I'm Dae Ho from Tsinghua University in China. I'm currently serving as the vice chair of INSOP. I'm very pleased to moderate today's meeting. Today's meeting will be very exciting. As Serge said, we are going to elect the working group chairs and also discuss about our tasks and deliverables. This will lay the ground for a fruitful year ahead of us. Before we enter detailed discussion, I'd like to recap and reflect on the last 2 days meeting. Over the last 2 days, we have some wonderful speakers who have given us many insights around various aspects of soil pollution. On day one, the Secretary of GSP, Ronald Vargas, gave a welcome message to all participants. We learned from Ronald that pollution remains a critical and urgent global concern, representing the foremost threat we face today. The accumulation of pollutants due to unsustainable practices pose significant risks to productivity, human health, and the environment. However, one major challenge we face is the lack of comprehensive public information on soil pollution. This is one of the reasons why the Global Soil Partnership and the International Network of Soil Pollution were established. INSOP Chair Ravi Naidu provided us with a comprehensive overview of INSOP. The FAO established the INSOP with the overarching goal of stopping soil pollution and achieving the global target of zero pollution. INSOP is dedicated to enhancing our understanding of the entire cycle of soil pollution, from assessment to remediation, as well as its impact on environmental and human health, and the vital functions and services provided by soil ecosystems. Furthermore, INSOP strives to strengthen the collaboration and cooperation among governments, academia, the private sector, and society. INSOP coordinator Sergejus reported our current work on several impactful activities aimed at tackling this pressing issue. One noteworthy activity is the development of a comprehensive guideline on pollution assessment, mapping, monitoring, and reporting. As the name implies, this guide will provide a detailed and systematic approach to identify and assess contaminated soil. In this regard, we are actively seeking review members and co-authors for the various chapters. If you are passionate about contributing to this crucial endeavor, we encourage you to reach out to us. In day one's meeting, Ms. Tiffany Lucas enlightened us about the ongoing projects in Ukraine that revolve around water pollution. This significant undertaking is a collaborative effort between the FAO and the World Food Programme. Their extensive soil sampling, covering an impressive area of nearly 140,000 square kilometers, has yielded invaluable information into bomb craters. The devastating impact of war on the soil is evident, with a sharp increase by several folds in heavy metal levels like copper and lead in certain areas. Ms. Vanessa Satina of GSP gave a talk on the topic of cadmium content in phosphorus fertilizers and its detrimental effects on soil health. INFA and INSOP have collaborated on 2 meetings this year, focusing on assessing fertilizer quality. These discussions have yielded valuable insights, outlining various methods for analyzing cadmium levels in soils and fertilizers. Currently, the analysis is undergoing its first draft review stage, and we are committed to releasing the report promptly to promote methodological consistency and ensure the safeguarding of soil and food security. Towards the end of the first day, Ms. Sasha Hart shared intriguing case studies concerning the reduction of risks in agricultural soils. The research shed light on the presence of cadmium in cocoa beans in Ecuador and Trinidad and Tobago, spanning from watershed to soil scale. His study considered the transport of heavy metals by floods. He suggested that similar studies be conducted in other flood-prone areas used for cocoa cultivation. On day 2, we had 5 important technical presentations. Firstly, Ms. Stephanie Hotrell provided valuable insights into the comprehensive identification and understanding of the distribution of PFAS in Europe. This ambitious undertaking aims to adapt and refine the proven methodology utilized in the US pollution maps for its effective application in the European context. ensuring accurate and reliable data for informed decision-making. With effort carried out on 17,000 non-contamination sites and nearly 2,000 hotspot clusters, the objective is to develop precise and targeted strategies for the remediation prevention of PFAS pollution. By doing so, they not only strive to safeguard our precious ecosystems, but also prioritize the protection of public health from the harmful effects of PFAS exposure. Mr. Andrew McCarter talked about Pure Earth's experience in identifying and monitoring lead and mercury polluted soils. He showcased the risk screening model, protocols, and cases of the toxic sites identification program, which has successfully completed more than 5,000 site contamination assessments in over 50 countries. These practical applications hold significant importance in our pursuit of a cleaner environment. The third presentation was given by Ms. Isabel Werespe. She talked about soil pollution and remediation in Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is rich in mineral resources, with 90% of the world's platinum metal, 80% of manganese, and 88% of chromium. As Isabel described, the use of plants and microorganisms to transform mine waste and contaminated soil or water can be an effective and economical way to control pollution. In our efforts to address soil contamination, we must develop innovative, green, and sustainable remediation methods. By sharing knowledge, expertise, and resources, together we can take the necessary steps to address soil pollution in Africa and create a healthier environment for future generations. The fourth speaker on day 2 was Professor Wong Min Hong. He gave many insights on soil pollution's impact on the quality and safety of our food. He shed light on the transmission risks and toxicity of persistent toxic substances, including heavy metal contaminants like arsenic and mercury, as well as emerging contaminants such as POPs and microplastics. Lastly, Dr. Sasha Kun-Oshima emphasized the significance of addressing soil pollution within the One Health approach. She elucidated the diverse sources and effects of contamination. With a particular, Dr. Koshima stresses the need for multidisciplinary approach and multi-sectoral cooperation to combat this pressing issue. Collaboration, education, and investment in research and technology are vital in tackling the complex challenges surrounding soil pollution. So in the last 2 days, we have achieved a lot. We had many enlightening discussions and valuable insights. I'm particularly appreciative that many of the participants provided many insights and raised many great questions, either by speaking out or typing in the chat box. I believe we should carry this momentum into this third day. The topics to be discussed today are extremely important. First, our INSOP coordinator Sergejus will talk about our working area approach, including its objectives, scopes, and tentative deliverables. Then we will hold the election of working group chairs. After the election, we will open the floor for all participants to discuss and endorse the work plan. At the end, INSOP Chair Ravi Naidu will give some concluding remarks. Without further ado, let's welcome Sergejus to start talking about the working group approach.
Dave, thank you very much for these words. And yes, that was incredible last 2 days. I hope that we all enjoyed and learned a lot about the issues of soil pollution. Before we're going to go into details, Ravi, I would like to give the floor to you and emphasize for one more time the importance of the Intergovernmental Panel on Contaminants, the IPC, and why we should all click on the QR code and join. Ravi, would you like to brief all our participants on the importance of the IPCC panel? Ravi, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Oh,
What about now?
yes, we can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Sergejus. Thank you very much also, Daiho, for an excellent overview of last 2 days presentation. Well said and well captured as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have you with us third day. And I know that many of you have many other commitments, but you have placed emphasis on soil pollution and the overview of last 12 months work that INSOP has delivered. This slide that we have is something that was presented during the 2022 cleanup conference, where delegates participating in the conference recognizing the need for us to have an intergovernmental panel on contaminants, a global plan that helps us combat chemical pollution, including the establishment of a chemical pollution body, similar to Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, this is not something that just happens. It's something that we really need to work for. It only happens provided we have many people recognizing the need for such a panel. And for that reason, we have this QR code, and I'm looking for at least 25,000 clicks. And I'm taking this to every conference that I'm participating in, also colleagues and friends who participate in conference to present this and get delegates to use their camera to click onto this. If you support the need for intergovernmental panel on contaminants, would you please take your iPhone or other phones and click onto the QR code? You have, let's say, 60 seconds to do that.
Thank you, Ravi. Once we are waiting for participants to join and sign the petition. Ravi, when was exactly it was launched? When? Last year, right? You said.
Yes, September 2022.
And do we have idea of how many participants already signed the petition?
A good question, Sergejus. It's quite a few, but I don't have the exact number with me right now.
Okay, and so there's no deadline of when the petition going to expire, which is it's still ongoing, right?
It is still ongoing, yes. And when I reach 25,000 clicks, I'll let everybody know that we are ready to go forward.
Perfect. Well, I think it's a great initiation because yes, we need to have this on the pollution side as well, similar to the IPCC panel that we have currently. Do you, Ravi, here's a very good question. Do we have a link to sign the petition? Not the QR code, but the link.
Look, I'll need to get the link and I'll pass it over to you,
Please, yes,
and you can.
Yes, yeah. I'm just going to delegate this this session now. Once you have the link,
yes,
please share it with us. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, in this respect, Ravi I think this is the link. Okay, Xiaopi Wang, hello, thank you. I think Xiaopi already shared the link with the participants in the chat, so we can all click on that link as well and sign the petition. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for all your kind words, Ravi and Day. In this respect, let's go on to our first agenda item. Well, this is the slide from the first day, just to remind all of us, our governance. So as you're familiar already that INSOP is part of the GSP, and everything what we're doing within the network needs to be reported to the GSP and hence to Planet Water Division. The network itself is led by our fantastic INSOP chair and INSOP vice chair. You are already familiar with them. And obviously myself, I'm the coordinator of the INSOP network. We have 6 working groups to delegate, as you can see here at the bottom. Last year, we have started the activities for the assessment working group. The progress that we've done with the assessment working group is very good. We have reviewed the SOPs with our members of Glossaland for heavy metals, but this is just the beginning because we need to develop SOPs for bioavailable heavy metals with them in the near future. I'm going to show you that. And this assessment group is led by Ahmad Mahdavi. I'm not sure if Ahmad is joining us now or if he will join later. Ahmad is from Iran. We also have another 5 working groups that you can see here. The the objective was to launch and find the leaders for all working groups today. However, we have not found sufficient or right candidates for mapping working group and soil and water working group for today's election. Therefore, we're going to launch and review and approve all activities for all working groups with your help. And we're going to, in addition, we're going to find and elect the leaders for monitoring working group, remediation, and food quality working groups today. Mapping and soil and water working group leaders will be elected at the later stage once we organize technical meetings specifically focusing on mapping and soil and water activities. Now, without further ado, let's start reviewing our objectives for each working group. Now, as I said, for the assessment, we have already the leader, so we don't need to elect the new one. The objective for the assessment working group is to foster a deeper understanding of soil pollution sources and environmental risks. And we need to, countries have the informed decisions and actions based on the data and information of soil pollution. Our objectives and scope can be found online at our website, INSOP FAO. However, it can be reviewed and revised after today's discussion. Briefly about working plan activities for the assessment working group. Now, on Tuesday, I have presented you the ongoing activity of the technical guidance on soil pollution assessment, mapping, monitoring, and reporting reporting soil pollution. And as part of this activity, we need to finalize and review guidelines on assessment, on environmental risk assessment. So on Tuesday, I have shared with you the link or the survey of the panelists who wish to be included for the reviewing panelist of this specific chapter. Once we will conclude the development of this chapter, we will go ahead for the review. Other than that, as I said, development of SOPs for bioavailability of heavy metals, launch technical workshop addressing pesticide pollution by highly hazardous pesticides and obsolete pesticides, focusing on identifying gaps, methodologies, current legislation, and solutions to reduce risks of soil pollution by pesticides, organize workshops in small island developing states on soil sampling, how to do risk assessment, monitoring soil pollution and remediation actions. And finally, our wonderful program, Soil Doctors Program, which is farmers training, farmers to farmers training. We would like to have developed the educational material for farmers on prevention and mitigation of soil, cadmium, and pesticide pollution this year. We will come back to all of this in much more details where we have the opportunity to raise your hand and possess the questions or modify the activities or deliverables if you're not happy with them. Mapping working group. The objective is global inventorying and monitoring of polluted soils, as well as strengthen informed, data-driven decision making at all levels through public access to information. For example, the activities that we propose to you for mapping is to, again, review technical guidelines on soil pollution mapping methodology, because mapping is also included in these guidelines. Initiate the discussion and develop the methodology to map soil pollution or soil contaminants and identify data gaps in close collaboration with our mapping team, INSI, International Network of, Natalia, please help me, I forgot the abbreviation. INSI, it stands for? Soil Information System, that's right. I completely forgot that this. And lastly, capacity building program for a specific region on soil pollution mapping webinar for specific regions or country. Now, as I said, we do not have the leader today to elect for mapping, but if you are familiar with mapping soil pollution or making the methodologies how to map soil pollution, please feel free to reach out to us, because in the near future, we're going to launch a workshop on mapping, and we need knowledgeable people who can help us to achieve all of the tasks, all of the activities that you see here. Now, monitoring and regulation of pollution. Our objectives here is helping countries to develop and strengthen the monitoring of point source and diffuse soil pollution at national and regional levels, as well as to boost for specific commitments by governments and the private sector to advance policies that prevent soil pollution. This is our objective. How we're going to achieve this? Through all of these activities that you see here. First one, and ladies and gentlemen, the activities that you see here, they go by order. So the way we're going to start is to review technical guidelines on soil pollution monitoring chapter. Our lead author, Bernd Busian, is here joining us from Greece. Hello, Bernd, we can see you. Once the monitoring chapter will be completed, we're going to reach out to you to help us review the chapter. But the chapter is only focusing on the environmental indicators of soil pollution. We also need to develop indicators and guidelines for assessing the risks and toxicity of soil pollution on human health at the later stage. We need to analyze national soil legislation and identify the most common and minimum requirements addressing soil pollution. We need to help establish national legislation on soil pollution prevention, control, and remediation, including risk assessment approaches. And last but not least, we need to advocate for the inclusion of contaminant content in fertilizers label information sheet, which needs to be in line with our fertilizer code of conduct. Very ambitious tasks, but we need someone who can help us to delegate those activities. Again, those activities will be revised after the endorsement and election of the leaders. Now, we have fantastic candidates who can help us to guide and lead us in achieving these ambitious tasks. We have Claudia de Lima y Silva joining us today. I think Claudia from the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have Ainka Vijayawardena, who is joining us today from Australia. They expressed their interest to collaborate and contribute their knowledge to this working group and achieving those activities that I just presented. It's time for me to give the floor to our wonderful ladies, Claudia and Ainka, to present in a nutshell in 3 to 5 minutes about their experience and why they are fantastic candidates to lead this working group on monitoring regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, after their presentation, we're going to launch a poll where you have to decide and elect one of those wonderful ladies who are going to lead this working group. So I'm not sure, Claudia, if you are ready to take this opportunity and present yourself to be the leader for this working group. Claudia, you have the full control.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so as you can see, I've been following very close this meeting and the presentations and the discussions. So I'm Brazilian, but I live in the Netherlands. I have been the chair of the Global Soil Group, which is also an international group, it's also an international network, like we have the monitoring working group. I've been the chair of this group for 4 years. Now I'm the past chair. So in total, 5 years working with scientists around the world, because it's a global group. We managed to work. What is the structure? We have the steering committee and the members. So one of the things that we've done is we need to listen to what the members want from us, what they expect us to do. So we applied the survey and then we got our answers and we started to work on it. And last year we managed to produce and implement a webinar on risk assessment of soils, because we wanted to start the discussion. So since it is a global group, it had to encompass problems of risk assessment in soil, not only from Europe, but from different parts of the globe. And it was free. We managed to get it free, which is hard to manage to get if you are a voluntary network. We are also now writing a paper, our group, on soil health law. So it's about also to be published. And what I think is that I can contribute to this network because of my experience for 5 years working in global networking, scientific network. My background is in soil ecotoxicology, metals and pesticides, so I'm encompassing both of the world problems here. I think that nobody do anything by themselves, so we need to do it together, because together we are stronger. And I also think that not one solution will fit all the problems. Because it is a global institution, we need to focus on global and regional aspects, also incorporating culture and respecting the desire and the wishes of the members. And in order to increase the network and help bring the solutions, either as training or as monitoring or as just by discussing on the topic. So I think that's it.
Claudia, thank you very much for this inspiring words. Indeed, we will agree, we definitely agree with all what you said. And yes, we need collectively work on this. That's, I think you delivered your message clearly, and you'll be a fantastic candidate to lead this working group. But we have another fantastic candidate who needs to present herself, Ainka. Good evening, Ainka. I think you're joining us from Australia this evening.
Yes, good
evening,
evening.
Ainka. I know you have some slides to present, so I'll just stop sharing my screen and I'll give the full control to you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ainka. I'm currently a senior research fellow at the Global Center for Environmental Remediation. My mentor is laureate Professor Ravi Naidu. I gained my BSc degree in pharmacy from University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. Then I went and did my master's degree in USA from the on medical biology, specializing in medical microbiology and medical immunology. And then I came to Australia to do my PhD in environmental remediation and public health from the University of South Australia in 2014. I completed it in, from 2010 to 2014. I have over 12 years experience with CRC care in the research field of assessing bioavailability and environmental health risk of heavy metals and other pollutants. With my expertise in soil contaminants, pharmacology, toxicology, and bioavailability, I believe I can successfully contribute to the monitoring working group. I have been leading the inorganic contaminant bioavailability research activities under the CRC Care Research Project, a fully integrated risk assessment system from 2014 to 2021. I focused mainly on lead and arsenic bioavailability and toxicity, and also their mixture effects. In this research, our team worked towards minimizing uncertainty in risk assessment of inorganic contaminants. And my research responsibilities included developing predictive tools for bioavailability of heavy metals. Under the mentorship of laureate Professor Ravi Naidu, I led research to find out possible causes for chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology in farming communities in Sri Lanka back in 2017 to 2020 period. The main objectives of this study were to quantify environmental exposure to heavy metals through food and drinking water, to map the heavy metal distribution, to investigate the relationship between body mass index and the estimated glomerular filtration rate. The determining of environmental factors affecting CKDU help farming communities that are adversely affected by heavy metal contaminations, and also it will help policymakers to make reliable decisions to overcome similar epidemics. I also worked as lecturer and course coordinator for risk characterization for human health course in Master of Environmental Risk Assessment and Remediation course offered from GSER, the University of Newcastle, from 2017 to 2019. I was involved in initiating new research on bioavailability of metalloid mixtures using animal studies and new research on assessing ecological risk to stygofauna in PFAS-impacted groundwater. These will underpin new guidance on health and ecological investigation levels in Australia and function as a platform for formulation of investigation levels and screening levels for metal mixtures and PFAS in environmental matrices worldwide. I am in the editorial boards of several international journals, including the Ceylon Journal of Medical Sciences, International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. I was in the organizing committees of several international conferences, including International Cleanup Conference in 2017 and 2022. And also Global Cleanup Congress held in Coimbatore, India in 2018. And also in International Workshop on Chemical Bioavailability in Terrestrial Environment held in 2017 in Warsaw, Poland. I host the fortnight. I host the Jesus Seminar Series at our center, and in recognition to uplift in the positive research culture, I was awarded the Staff Excellence Award from the College of Engineering, Science and Environment, the University of Newcastle in 2021. I'm an active member of University's Athena Swan Working Party, which attempts to remove key barrier areas in women's career development. Since I have extensive expertise in contaminant assessment in soil, I like to lead the monitoring working group. This is very important to risk minimization processes and remediation projects where necessary. Thank you for listening.
Inka, thank you very much, and sorry for disturbing your presentation. Indeed, very interesting, and thank you very much. We learned a lot about your experience and your candidature. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most interesting part. You heard two candidates, Claudia and Ainka, presenting and nominating themselves for leading the monitoring working group. We are a very democratic and transparent network. Therefore, it's not me, nor Ravi, nor they deciding, but it's you who decide who of those wonderful ladies will be the leader of the working group. Now it's time for some polls and expressing your opinion. Who will be the leader? Natalia, I'm not sure, can you help me to launch the poll, or will I launch? So in a second, we're going to see in your screen. Okay, Natalia, we need to run just one poll at this stage, not two. Is it possible? Okay, well, while we're fixing on the first poll, let's wait a little bit and decide who will be the leader of the monitoring working group. Natalia, how's it going from your side? Natalia, can you please update us on technical issues that we have?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, yes.
Okay, please continue, because I need to redo the polls because they were all together in just one place. So
oh, okay, I see. Okay.
Please continue.
Well, okay, we will continue now. So don't forget, Claudia and Ainka, wonderful candidates. So we're going to come back while Natalia is ready. Let me share my screen again with you, because I don't think I'm sharing. So while we are waiting for Natalia, I would like to go into the another working group objectives and tasks to present to you. Okay, oops, I hope you can see my screen in full mode now. Now, for remediation, we're going to come back again because we need to elect leaders for remediation as well. There's wonderful remediation candidates, so we're going to come back to them while we finish up with the monitoring. Food quality. Let's talk about the food quality working group. Our objectives for this working group is to increase safety of food by reducing the presence of soil pollutants in the crops globally. Yes, the presentation delivered by Professor Wong highlighted clearly that soil pollutants in food affect human health significantly, and we need to address that as soon as possible. Oops, Natalia, we have the poll, but it's still, yeah, can we finish this poll again? Another objective is that we need to have a sound management of soil pollutants throughout their life cycle to minimize significant adverse effects on human health. How are we going to do this? Well, we have now drafted for you, for your approval, 4 activities that we need to focus on. The first one is liaise and cooperate with countries for gathering health data related to environmental impacts. Then we need to revise the Global Health Observatory indicators and liaise with WHO to include soil pollution indicators in there, because currently we don't have soil pollution indicators in the Global Health Observatory. We need to put that as well. We need to identify sources of soil pollution in agricultural crops and the risks to human health. And that is the phase 2 project that we would like to launch on reducing the risks of soil pollution in agricultural systems. Now, if you can recall from Tuesday's session, our wonderful speaker, Sasha Hart, presented the first results of cadmium in cocoa from South America and the Caribbean islands. And there's an urgent need to continue this project further to the phase 2, as we can recall it. And finally, we need to analyze fertilizer quality in order to understand contaminants and nutrient load and risks to soil and human health. These are the activities that are proposed by us, but at the end, after the endorsement of the leader, you need to decide whether you agree with them or not. For this working group, we have one fantastic candidate, David O'Connor. Unfortunately, we didn't have other candidates who expressed the interest of food quality, but if you are interested, it's the last chance for you to express the interest right now. We don't have a huge options for this, but I think David O'Connor is a great candidate not to select. But again, at the chat, you need to decide whether you agree with his candidate or not. Before that, we're going to go and you decide in the chat. David O'Connor, I would like to give the floor to you. And in 3 to 5 minutes, present yourself and why you think you would like to, why you think you're a good candidate to lead the food quality working group. And we're looking forward to hear from you now. David, you have the full floor in your 3 to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Sergejus. And I'm very happy to be with you today. And for those of you who don't know me, by way of introduction, my name is David O'Connor, and I'm an academic from the Royal Agricultural University in the UK, where I teach on sustainable land management. And I'm also a visiting professor at Qingdao Agricultural University here in China, because I join you today from Shandong province, where it is a very hot day. I'm going to introduce my research very quickly. I'm a highly cited researcher with more than 18 years experience in the contaminated land sector. And more recently, I've had a very strong focus on polluted farmland. I'm particularly interested in how land degradation and the way that we farm is impacting on food safety as well as food security. I currently serve as deputy editor of the journal Soil Use and Management, and I am on the editorial board of the Journal of Hazardous Materials and Science of the Total Environment. And that is a very quick introduction to my CV. Thank you very much.
David, thank you very much for this introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to hear your opinion in the chat box, whether you're happy with David leading, and if you're allowing us to elect him and approve as the leader of the food quality working group. We're going to give some time for you to reflect on David's candidature, and then we'll come back to David to see whether there's anyone against your nomination or not. So David, please stay tuned for us, and we're waiting for some comments on your approval. Now, Natalia just informed me that the poll for our wonderful first speakers, Claudia and Ainka, is fixed. So Natalia, I think we can now decide on who will be the leader of the working group for monitoring working group. I think we can start the voting system now, if you're ready, Natalia.
Okay, let me see if it works. Please, the co-host, don't touch anything. You cannot vote as co-host. So let me launch it.
Okay, all co-hosts, that's including the candidates.
Yes, so they cannot, yeah.
Including us, Ravi and Daya. So let's give the control to Natalia.
Can you see the poll now?
I can't, but Bernd is not co-host and he's knocking his head, so he can't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are some technical problems because I cannot launch it. Sorry for that. Let me come back to you in a minute. Okay, I'm sorry for this. Some technical issues here.
Zoom is always an issue for me as well. Okay, let's come back to this one. Okay, so okay, yes, while everyone is fixing the poll, let's come. Claudia, Ainka, I know that the tension is growing, but please let's stay tuned. And let's come back to another working group where unfortunately, we don't have the leader to nominate today, but the tasks and objectives still needs to be approved, and that is soil and water working group. Now, the objectives for this working group is to strengthen knowledge. Oops, no, Natalia, we can see the poll, but it's still 2 candidates. Okay.
Now okay, it should be the good one, yeah.
Yes, okay, so let me stop sharing my screen and you can vote.
And then I see many people are replying also on David. We also have another poll just to get the results.
Yes. Okay, more than 60% voted already. We're going to give another few, let's say half a minute to vote. Claudia, Ainka, can you please put your cameras on so we can see your faces? Just bear in mind that, as I mentioned, the leader is the leader, but we need your participation and knowledge to lead those tasks, because the leader cannot do anything without you, right? So I think it's much more encouraging now, even if you're not winning.
Okay, I think we can end the poll now.
Yes. Okay, Natalia, can you share? Okay, we share the results. Well, Claudia, congratulations. With 65% of voting being for you. Ainka, once again, thank you very much. I think your expertise and knowledge highly needed. And so please don't step outside, because we need you to be involved and work with us together. We're looking forward to collaborate with you in those tasks and activities. And I would like to hear your opinion, whether you agree on those activities after we finish up the nomination. Claudia, once again, my sincere congratulations and welcome to the team. And we're looking forward to work with you. And I'm very excited. This is the first lady that we have in the team. Wonderful. It was more than 1 year that we waited for that lady. Okay.
Congratulations, Claudia.
Congratulations indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Well, let's come back. So we have first leader decided. So I already started sharing about soil and water working group. Again, objectives of that one is to strengthen knowledge on the environmental and associated ecotoxicological risks, environmental fate and behavior of soil and water pollutants. That's one of their objectives. If you feel that there are need for more objectives, please feel free to step in during open discussion in a few minutes. The activities that we propose to you under this working group is standard operating procedures for measuring leaching potential of soil pollutants in order to harmonize SOPs and create those SOPs for measuring leaching potentials of soil pollutants. Assessment of soil pollutants prone to leaching and risks they have to groundwater pollution. Identification of indicators relevant to the groundwater assessment affected by soil pollutants. And last but not least, address and strengthen environmental components of the One Health approach. For those of you who participated yesterday, our Deputy Director delivered a great presentation on what is One Health and why we need to collaborate here. I think we need to address this issue in terms of the One Health approach, but again, you will decide at the later stage. Unfortunately, we did not find enough candidates to lead the soil and water group. If you are still interested, there is a chance to participate. Please send us your CV. Now, we're not gonna elect anyone for soil and water working group today. What we're gonna do, we're gonna organize a separate meeting just to address those activities in soil and water working group very soon. And then we're going to elect the leader for that one. Oh, that's not the end. I'm sorry. And then we are still going on with remediation and sustainable management, the last working group. Now, the objectives of remediation is integrated sustainable management and remediation practices and technologies for polluted soils that are widely used, with special emphasis on nature-based solutions, and strengthening technical and technological capacities of sustainable soil management through coordination among existing networks that are already in the field. We're not a unique network of soil pollution. We need to liaise and collaborate with other networks of soil pollution that are already here. Activities: create the online database on best available techniques for managing and remedying polluted soils with our team of the network of sustainable biodiversity, NetSop. I think we have some members from NetSop joining us today here. Another activity is develop national capacities and strengthen technology transfer for remediation and sustainable management of polluted soils. And lastly, again, initiate phase 2 on the implementation of solutions and nature-based remediation techniques on reducing the risks of soil pollution in agricultural systems. This is already interlinked with food quality working group that I've already presented, but there's a remediation aspect also needs to be present in this project of phase 2 that we're about to plan. To lead this working group, we had wonderful, a lot of candidates actually who were interested to lead, but we had to pre-select just 2 for the time constraint. And these are Fang Wang, I think joining us today from China, if I'm not mistaken. Good afternoon, Fang. And second candidate is Scott Werner, joining us from very early California, if I'm not mistaken. Very good morning, Scott, to you as well.
Good morning.
Well, Scott, you are unmuted, so I think you can take the floor and present yourself in 3 to 5 minutes about your background and why you wish to lead those activities of remediation working group. Scott, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergejus, and good day to everybody. Yes, it is quite early here in California. It's about 5 minutes till 4 in the morning here on the west coast of the United States. And where I'm located, the background here, I'm in Northern California, about 50 kilometers north of San Francisco, which I guess coincidentally happens to be where the United Nations started back in 1945. So pretty good connection there. It's a pleasure to be introduced to everybody here. I'm Scott Werner. I'm a principal hydrogeologist with a US-based consulting firm, BBJ Group, and I'm also a doctoral researcher with the University of Newcastle and the Global Center for Environmental Remediation. Kind of taken that doctoral program a little bit at the end of a career, or at least at the late end of it. I've been working for 36 years as a practicing hydrogeologist and remediation specialist. And my work really over those 3.5 decades has focused on the development of in situ and nature-based programs for cleaning our legacy contaminants and our developing contaminants, including sustainable remediation, and one of the very first in situ remediation programs for industrial contaminants that actually has still been working now for nearly 30 years. But the reason I'm here in front of you all today is a very strong interest, and I think a duty I feel in trying to bring the technology and the information knowledge to our global audience. You know, yesterday's presentations on lead and mercury cleanup throughout the world, particularly to protect children, the use of phytoremediation in Southern Africa, shows that there is an immense knowledge base out there in the world. And one of the challenges that we've always had is to try and transfer that information, not just to those who can easily move around the globe and implement, but to those who are local, because that's where we have to move our knowledge base and our information and development of new technologies. A number of years ago, I was working for a multinational consulting company where I was the remediation practice leader for about 2,000 staff scientists. And folks were located throughout the world and on all continents: Europe, North America, Australia, South America, and Africa. And one of the things that I needed to do there is not just put myself into the technologies that I know, but to essentially mine the information and knowledge from everybody so that we can actually spread and direct that information to our staff, to those that we're working with, to the public, to the clients. And I've used that in my practice throughout my career. And I have to tell you, I'm blessed and I'm happy that I've been able to work with so many wonderful people around the world. And I've been in a career where we actually can develop new things that provide value. I would be happy to work with Dr. Wang as well if she is elected. And I think the whole idea is for us to be working as a team. I've done this before in putting groups together and trying to stimulate that information and that knowledge and develop publications and guidance documents and training. And I guess that's the last thing I want to say is that it sounds like, and I believe and I agree with, that one of the goals of this organization is to bring that training, that local knowledge to the places where this work has to get done. Technical training, health and safety, local knowledge and tech transfer, and putting those guidance documents that are important. I should mention that one other thing in the doctoral work right now, what I'm working on primarily is my interest in how to take issues of climate change and work that into our remediation technologies. One of the things I've seen over my practice is that while we develop these programs that are good, they're really based on climate today, not climate tomorrow. And I think to make our systems last longer as conditions change, we need to put those new techniques in place. So that's my interest from that technical perspective. So that's it, Sergejus. Thank you very much for the floor. It's a pleasure to meet everybody, and I hope everyone has a terrific day once we're done.
Scott, thank you very much for your introduction. I think it's very inspiring words. And yes, indeed, we're looking forward, no matter what will be the results and the outcomes of today's poll, to collaborate with you because your knowledge is highly needed in remediation working group. And before we go to the poll and decide, I would like to give the floor for the introduction to Dr. Fang Wang. If you can, we can see you. Good evening, Dr. Fang. I hope you're joining us today. Where are you joining us, from China or from other countries?
From China. Good afternoon.
You're very welcome. Good afternoon, Dr. Fang. And the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself and explain what's your motivation to lead the remediation working group.
Thank you. So let me first share my screen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to give me the opportunity to compete for this area for the sustainable management and remediation of polluted soil. I'm from Institute of Soil Science, Chinese Academy of Sciences. First of all, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. So I graduated 2007 from Chinese Academy of Science with soil science, and later I worked in the Institute of Soil Science CAS up to now. In 2014, I was promoted to full professor. In the meanwhile, I have worked in several countries, such as in Germany, the German Research Center for Environmental Health, and also Technical University of Munich. And then later I worked in Michigan State University with Professor Jim Stege, and then also work as an Alexander on Humboldt Fellow for Experience Research in the Aachen University and also UNICH Research Center. So I have more than 100 publications with an H index of 31, and some of them like the EST, water research, and most are in good journal. So I have also 29 patents. In the meanwhile, I'd like to interact with the international colleagues. So I was invited as a consultant to work with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and also a member of the International Union of Soil Science, a member of the International Panel of Chemical Pollution, and also I established the working group of collaboration between Soil Science Society of China and also American, and appointed as a co-chair. So I'm very lucky. Currently I work as the editor-in-chief of the journal Environmental Technology and Innovation. I think everybody loves this journal because this journal is established by Ravi. So thank you, Ravi, to give me this opportunity. I'm also the associate editor of Science of the Total Environment. So in the past years, I have several awards, such as Zheng Luoyang Talent of China, and also what I have mentioned, Alexander on Humboldt Fellow for Experience Research, and also the Outstanding Youngs of Jiangsu Province of China, and so on. So my research mainly focuses on soil pollution and remediation, especially focused on the organic pollutants, such as the persistent organic pollutants and emerging contaminants like the microplastic and antibiotic resistant gene. So my work focused on not only the agriculture soil, but also contaminated sites. We know to keep a sustainable agriculture, we try to develop integrate the bacteria and the plants for sustainable remediation of contaminated soil. For this, we have many papers. For example, we have 2 papers published as the EST cover paper. And for example, we also investigate the film of the greenhouse. For this, to help the government to sustainable management film at the greenhouse to keep the human health. And then we also work on like the microplastics, find the pathway from the root to the leaf, and also from the air to the tissue, and then was to change the metabolism and also the impression. And for the antibiotic resistance, and we are focused on the One Health perspective and work on the so-called soil ecosystem, especially from the manure to regulate how to smart use the manure to keep the soil health. As for the contaminated site in China, this is really a problem because we have, due to the fast development of the industry, we have a lot of contaminated sites. For me, especially focused on the contamination section with many different kinds of factories. For this, I'm leading a very big project. And then for this project, we're developing the model to simulate the transport of the chemicals from the soil to groundwater and even to the surface soil, and ROS to develop the technique to remediate contaminated section with like oxidized method, bioremediation, and also the natural-based monitoring technique. For example, we use the advanced oxidation combined with microbial remediation of these organic contaminated sites, and then we also apply them to the soil, and then develop the application instrument. And also we develop an application of the different remediation facility in our group, and then combine to cooperate with them commonly. We apply different techniques of the methods we developed, and then to smartly to combine different techniques, and then could sustainably remediate the contaminated sites and for the sustainable management of the soil, especially for the human health.
Half a minute.
So for I play this one, I think for me, I would like to work not only to serve my country, but also to serve the different section of the all over the world. And this network is a brilliant platform to help the people from all over the world. So I have the experience with a very good international network. I'm sure I could really help like chair and the coordinator to have a very good future. Thank you.
Professor Wang, thank you very much for this informative introduction. We learned a lot about you and the work that you are doing in your field. Thank you very much, and I apologize for disturbing your presentation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we received two candidates you've just heard, and you learned a lot about them, Scott Werner and Fang Wang. And now, as with the previous candidates, I would like Natalia to launch the poll where you have to decide who you want to lead and navigate all these activities for the remediation working group. Your decision will tell us a lot. Go ahead. Now, Dave, while people are voting here, I just want to come back to David O'Connor to see whether you spotted any negative comments or perhaps any questions today to David that we need to address while people are voting.
Yes, I went through the comments regarding David's nomination. I think I saw nearly 20 people who said approve David's nomination. I don't see any negative voting, but I do see one comment which may help David to help David's future work. So Bill Don said David is a fantastic candidate. Hold on. For the food quality working group, however, you need to tell us how you will carry everyone along. I'm sure David, once he gets the position, he will come up with a plan to work with the other members who are interested in this working group. I also noticed that Steve specifically said that David would be a perfect choice and would welcome the opportunity to work with. So I think we welcome all members who, like Steve, who are interested in this working group. I encourage you to contact Serge and contact David to join this food quality working group to work together. I'm sure we can work together and get some very good deliverables in the near future.
Lovely. Great. Thank you very much. Natalia, I don't see the poll. Do we have the poll for Fang Wang and Scott Werner results available?
Yes, but I think we need to reopen it again. Please, the ones that have co-host rights, please don't touch anything, because if you close it in your screen, it will be closed for everyone.
Okay.
So please let me, because we have basically 50-50%, so we need to relaunch it again.
That's
sorry
a democracy.
For this.
Now, I just remind that Ahmad, Ayanka, Claudia, Scott, Frank, and David, Ravi, and myself, and Dave, please don't touch anything, because otherwise, if we're going to press something, we're going to close the poll. So we don't need to touch anything, the co-host.
Yeah, sorry for that. Please vote again so we can
Natalia, can you disconnect Ahmad as a co-host? He would like to vote, and
Yes, let me.
Ahmad, just please wait and don't press anything until Natalia let us know.
Done.
Okay, and Ahmad, now you can vote.
Okay, I don't see it's moving anymore, so maybe we can stop it now. We have 74% of voting. Just 2 more seconds and then it's closed.
Still 30 people didn't vote.
30%.
30%. Okay.
Okay, there you are.
Well, that's a real democracy, isn't it? Almost half.
I think you have two chairs for this working group.
I think indeed, yeah, because it's equals, right? So, and indeed, the activities that we have in the remediation working group are very challenging. And I think if we all agree, let's nominate 2 leaders for this working group. This is the first time I see 49 and 51%. Okay, so, well, in this respect, I think we have 2 winners, because indeed there's no loser, right? It's Frank, Scott, my sincere congratulations to both of you. I'm very happy to add you both and be included in the INSOP team for remediation working group. Ravi, do you have any impressions? It's very interesting, isn't it?
It's great to have 2 great leaders, co-leaders. And what's wonderful about this is that Professor Wang comes from a lot of scientific knowledge that she's bringing from remediation perspective as an academician, as a researcher. Scott Warner has also been an absolutely outstanding remediation technologist engineer. And as he mentioned, he has also been very active in writing guidance documents, something that we also need. And therefore, by having 2 leaders, co-leaders, we'd be able to capture both sound science as well as from engineering aspect, technology as well. So great to have both of them with us, and I'm pretty certain that it's going to reduce some of our workload as well. So welcome both of you, and congratulations as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Dave, do you have any words to say as well? Quite interesting.
Yeah, it's great to have both of Fawn and Scott to join as co-chairs. I mean, I think this is a very good gender representation, geographic representation, and also, as Ravi said, I mean, represent both academia and the industry. So I think this is great. I mean, we the 2 candidates have very complementary experiences. So I think it's great to have 2 co-chairs for this working group.
And as mentioned on day 1, that we're looking for gender balance as well, and for having Fang and Claudia, we are doing that as well, narrowing the gender balance. That's fantastic. Congratulations, both of you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Wang, Scott Warner. Thank you very much, and welcome to the team. And looking also at the comments that they said, I think we can nominate and congratulate David O'Connor as well, because a lot of people agreed with his nomination. I think David is a real gem for our group to lead the food quality working group. David O'Connor, my sincere congratulations. It was much easier for you, by the way, but still. David, would you like to step in and say some words? So I know you.
Well, thank you, Sergejus. Thank you, everybody. And I'm very happy to take up this role. And I'm very much looking forward to working with the team and to all of the members of INSOP to help with this work, this very important work going forward. So thank you all, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this respect, we concluded our endorsement of and the election, actually, of the working group leaders. We're looking forward. Again, if you're interested, we still have 2 vacancies for mapping working group that still needs to be decided, and for soil and water. But now we need to hear your opinion about the activities that I just presented to you before. Ravi will take the lead on this right now, and this is the opportunity for you to either agree, disagree, or comment to those activities that we presented to you before. Ravi, I think we can start. I will share my screen now and start endorsing and discussing activities for the assessment working group.
Thanks so much, Sergejus, and thank you very much for presenting the activities and also deliverables, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm also so pleased that you are still with us. And those members who have been elected as chairs of these working groups, you're most welcome to comment on the activities as well. And I must say that we are quite ambitious. The bar is pretty heavy, and we'll be looking forward to your input as well in helping us deliver to all the working groups that we have, particularly the activities. Now, what I would like to request from you is that I'm not going to go through in significant details the activities that underpin deliverables, because that's something that Sergejus has already taken us through. But what I would like to do is to invite you to take us through what your thoughts are, what we have missed, or there are activities that you think are pretty heavy and we may not be able to deliver. How do we make it make certain that the activities do underpin deliverables and that we will be able to deliver these as well, provided we have a team helping us do that. So I'll open this for discussion. Please raise your hands and we will take your comments. And Sergejus will be taking notes as well.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that those proposed activities you see here, now we're going to go through, I know we have 45 minutes only, but still, these activities proposed just for the next 2 years. After the first year, in the next INSOP annual meeting, which will take place in 12 months, and hopefully we will meet in phase in Rome, depending on the resource mobilization and the progress that's been done, we will review what has been done. But my proposal is to initiate at least those activities if it's not possible to achieve them over the next 2 years. But the initiation is a must to be done.
Let's hear from the delegates.
Claudia, I see your hand raised. Any comments? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I have comments actually. It's just about saying that the soil assessment working group feeds to mapping that feeds into monitoring. So there are activities there that are dependent for all the three groups. And so it's important that they can work together, because I think one is producing already data for the other. What I thought very interesting also is that the monitoring group, based on the activities, will have to work very closely with food quality, because we have some activities that are overlapping. So then it's the synergy. I think that in my opinion, the activities were developed very well and they are synergizing the groups. So it incentivizes the groups to work together, and it potentializes more for better results.
I totally agree with you. As you can see, there's a lot of overlap, and that's exactly what we need to do. All working groups doesn't need to be detached from each other, but they need to overlap and interlink with each other to some extent with some activities, that's for sure. I see the comment from Paula, if emerging contamination will be included. That's a very interesting question. My proposal is to not include emerging contaminants at this stage. We can definitely organize some workshops based on the needs for this, but I'd rather focus on the contaminants that we have more knowledge at this stage, like heavy metals, pesticides. But for others like antibiotics and microplastic, we need to look at it a little more. I hope that answered your question. Ravi, do you have to add?
No, I'm stepping back. I thought that you're doing a great job. So move it forward, Sergejus. And yes, I agree with you that metals is what we are going to focus on. And I entirely agree with Claudia as well that while this seems to be standalone, but they're all interlinked with the working groups that we have in the themes. Okay.
I'd like also address question to Ravi Day from Girigon Oluput. Could assessment of pesticide polluted soils go hand in hand with pesticide residues in food grown on such soils, most especially herbicides such as glyphosate? Any thoughts on this?
Sergejus, did you want us, Dave, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, I think this is something the assessment group can work together with the food quality working group. I think that this is definitely something that we are interested. I mean, apparently the pesticide in soil and the pesticide residue in food are interconnected. So I think these two working groups can work together on this.
I think overall, when you look at the objective of INSOP, if you look at the 6 working groups quite deliberately, the way the working groups have been structured, it starts with from assessment and monitoring perspective, and should contaminants be present there, the key question that will be asked is whether we need to remediate. And of course, when contaminants are present in the soil, it has implications to crop quality and food quality as well. Where pesticides are concerned, and indeed, when you look at suppliers, suppliers always state that the pesticides will biodegrade or disappear within so many days. And there are certain pesticides, and as you mentioned, glyphosate as well. Glyphosate residues are found in soils. And therefore, whilst initially we're going to focus on metals, we're not going to avoid pesticides, and then we can spread to pesticides as well. So the target here, as you could see from the activities, standard operating procedures for bioavailability of heavy metals is something that we are going to focus on. And once that's delivered, then the working group could come together and decide on the next priority contaminant that we will target. And there has been some discussions relating to pesticides. That's something which we'll take on board as well.
Ahmad?
Can I
See your hand raised?
Okay. Thank you. When will be the starting the pesticide workshop that is mentioned here? Because I'm just keep hearing about it, but and I'm preparing really for everything, but I can see only this. And what time would be in the future?
So Sergejus, would you respond to that, the pesticide workshops?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, Ahmad, first step is agree whether you would like to launch this. If we agree today and we're going to endorse this activity, then we don't have other options but just to work on them. So if we will agree to endorse and work on the activity of pesticides, now next week I will draft the proposal or the concept note with our colleagues from the NSP, the Plant Protection Production, where we both can work together on pesticides, and we have to review as a team whether we're happy with that or not. But that's definitely our priority, Ahmad. Yes.
You mean, Sergejus, you mean it's not approved yet, 100%?
Well, that's exactly what we're doing now. If we all say yes, that's approved. So in after 45 minutes of this session, I need to have the approval of these activities. If we all happen now, then that's approved for sure.
Okay.
Okay, Scott, your last question on this, and then we're going to move to mapping.
Yeah, just one quick little maybe nuance item, Sergejus, on this question about are we going to focus on metals, or are we going to look at emergent contaminants, et cetera. The only thing I would add, and probably this is from the remediation perspective, is that awareness of other potential chemicals that may be in our focus should probably be entered into this. And I don't think you have to change how this is written, because one of the problems that we've had in the past is trying to attempt a remediation for a certain type of contaminant, but yet that creates a problem with others that may be in existence. So I don't think it changes the focus, but I think it's just one of those aspects of broadening the awareness of potentially what may be there depending on the type of site it is. So I just wanted to make sure that was acknowledged.
That's right. Yeah, that's well acknowledged. Well, I think we received positive feedback from what we heard from the chat and from our participants. If we don't have any comments, then please let's approve those activities and deliverables and start working on them. For each of those, we're gonna organize a meeting and we need your participation where you can help us in either developing SOPs for bioavailability of heavy metals. That's gonna be hand in hand with the Glossaland team as well. And other soil doctors program as well, the last one, we need to, you need to help us to, for example, approve and review what we're gonna develop, like the educational material development for farmers that can be going on there. Okay, so Robbie, anything to add, or we can move to mapping?
Nothing more.
Fantastic. Day, anything to add?
Just one minor thing. I saw a question being raised about the plastic. I remember plastic and the microplastic being raised in multiple occasions. So I think for the assessment working group, we may focus on heavy metals and pesticides, but we may, consider, hosting some technical discussions, webinars, workshops, to initiate a discussion on this, plastic and microplastic, also because plastic is currently being considered for in international treaties. So I think it's timely to have a discussion about that from the soil perspective.
So we can add this activity here if we can agree, because indeed microplastic will be always an agenda, and we need to start at least raising awareness of it from our point of view.
I think it's worth thinking about then emergent contaminants, because if you raise microplastics, then there is PFAS as well. So the key question is whether we focus on microplastics and nanoplastics, or we leave it to emergent contaminants, because at the moment PFAS is in vogue right now. And the other question to ask is, we can keep increasing the number of activities, whether within the time frame, what is it that we'll be able to deliver. And for me, as the chair of INSOP, I would like to hear from the delegates what they think, particularly as regards to the many activities that we have. Question to ask is, we can keep increasing the number of activities, and I totally agree with Daiho as well, but our ability to deliver is something which we're thinking as well.
Okay, I see the point. Okay, let's discuss about this. I think, yeah, emerging contaminants will be much better, because PFAS as well. We always asked about PFAS, right? And it's always an agenda.
So I think, the question was about the plastic. Plastic is not considered as emerging contaminants. I think sometimes maybe say plastic and emerging contaminants. Because I think plastic is right now maybe a timely topic for discussion. Because plastic is being widely used in agriculture practice, and
yeah, excuse me, Sergejus.
Yes, go ahead, Ahmad.
There are many issues really about pesticide and chemicals, POPs and HCH pollution, that and under the obsolete pesticides that you mentioned here. But wider than that, POPs pollution is a big problem, generally speaking, forever chemicals. That's a very wide, and I didn't understand again that why, if toxic pollution generally as a chemicals and pesticides are so very important in soil, why it is not still decided, and what is the program in the future? When is it? It's not clear for me still.
Are you referring to, well, I mean, Ahmad, so now we need to understand whether we're happy with those activities. If we're happy, then immediately next week, I will start drafting the concept note that you need to approve. And then we're going to organize the clear workshop and work plan of how we're going to address the pesticides issues. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Yeah, there are many.
I understand, but we can't
and-
address all pollutants at the same time within 2 years. Let's focus on specific topics.
Also, as I mentioned in some months ago, in many countries around the Persian Gulf, oil pollution. With oil pollution is also problem in soils. That I haven't seen anything about that.
I totally agree, but
yeah,
the network just starting, and we can address all contaminants at the same time. Otherwise, we will be everywhere and nowhere, right? Claudia, please go ahead, and we're going to move to mapping.
Yeah, so one suggestion would be, let's encompass everything, because we are here also to hear and listen to what our members are saying, but then we prioritize, because what can we deliver first? So the idea is also to deliver with quality, and not only to deliver everything that we have on the list. Therefore, if we get these suggestions and then prioritize them and divide them in the working groups, we can achieve more. What do you think? Just a suggestion.
I totally agree with Claudia that yes, we can keep increasing the number of activities, but for us to deliver effectively and quality wise, it would be quite a challenge. And as mentioned earlier, yes, we can include every contaminant that we wish to include, and then we do need to prioritize. I mean, the way we need to have a look at this is that there are two things. One is the contaminant for which we have database, we can extract information from the database. Then the second part of contaminants is that there are contaminants that have just emerged, for which we still have enough information, but sufficient information that is helping us come up with guidance documents. And this is the category where PFAS falls. And yet PFAS can have as many as, let's say, 12,000, according to the most recent definition from US EPA, 12,000 constituents. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. We still do not have remediation technologies. And then we see microplastics that is emerging. There's no guidance documents in any country on emerging on microplastics. Please let me know if you know that there are guidance documents. There are no such things as remediation technologies for microplastics. And I'm just coming from meetings in US where we did discuss asking this question: how many how many fatalities are there that you can link to microplastics or nanoplastics? And for us to do anything, we do need to make certain that there's sufficient information that in the database that helps us move forward. If we do not have, then the question to ask is what research needs to be done. And so for me, from INSOP perspective, is it the kind of question that we are going to ask? And where do we take those questions for somebody to invest resources to come up with information that we need from assessment, risk characterization, and remediation perspective? So globally, we are now focused on PFAS. Every country is, and that's what we have had today as well. Pollutant, contaminant that's just emerged. Microplastics, has it fully emerged? I doubt it. There's a lot more that still needs to be done. So my feeling is that the INSOP, together with the working group, should prioritize the contaminants that we're going to focus on. And then we need to see how we can bring together resources that can help us deliver these activities and deliverables that we have. So yes, we can go on including the activities that we wish, but at the end of the day, we'll need to see what we need to prioritize on. And that's something that Claudia has just mentioned as well.
Okay, we all agree with this? Talal, I see your hand.
Can I speak now? Thank you. I think microplastic and other emerging pollutants deserve a special working group. Let's not disperse our effort and focus on heavy metals and pesticides in this working group. And this is first comment. The second comment, I noticed from a representation of our co-leader from China, Fang, that she is a member of the intergovernmental or international panel on chemical pollutants. And we have voted for the creation of a similar panel, I think. Do we need that? Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. I agree with that. You know, as it was mentioned by Professor Naidu, you know, PFAS, and these are big issues that must be organized. There's a big, wide range of materials. And about microplastics, we have been discussing a lot during the past few years about these things in both, especially water and soil. It is not really organized very well. Even that in SDGs, that you know, the most related SDG is SDG 12, SCP. That the chemicals are discussed there. More than once I proposed that we have another SDG number 18 to be able to include the plastics. We were discussing a lot about chemicals in plastics in the past few weeks. And there are lots of chemicals in plastics. So I propose that we may need another SDG added, 18, to be included just for chemicals, pesticides, and plastics. So it is not very well organized globally yet, really, about the microplastics. That it is also a problem in soils other than water and everywhere. So must be careful for all of this, and as well as PFAS. We have been discussing a lot about PFAS and different type of chemical. It's a chemically polluted world that we have been discussing for decades on it, besides pesticides. So,
Ahmad.
So still, Sergio, just one moment, please, and I stop it. The second part that we can see here, the launch technical workshop, is this part included all this, or they are going to be discussed other places? In the second, in the green, you know, launch technical workshop addressing pesticide pollution. That's what my question. Thank you.
So I just didn't get your last question about technical workshop. What exactly the question?
Pardon? I didn't understand you.
I didn't get the last question that you get about technical workshop. What is the question?
Okay. Here in this on the screen that we can see.
Yes.
The assessment working area. In the second part, that it is launch technical workshop, you know, addressing.
That's right.
Pesticide pollution and that and that. Is that section is going to cover all these, you know, compounds that we mentioned, other than pesticide, HCH, you know, PFAS, even say microplastics?
No,
If-
just pesticides. Just pesticides. We're talking about just pesticides, not
Okay,
everything.
So
Just
where
pesticides.
where else are those others will be discussed or included?
Well, that's
Where-
what exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we're discussing. Are we want to include all of them at this stage, or focus specifically on the contaminants that we see here on the screen?
Yeah,
That's what it
because
is.
they are chemicals related, I would like to be involved in that also.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's a 50 years, exactly 50 years that I've been involved in many things in pesticide. But it's about 10, 15 years that I have been involved also with chemical pollution.
I understand, yeah.
So yeah, we have to clear all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sergej, I think we need to move forward.
We
think
need indeed.
we should have it as emergent contaminants rather than just microplastics, because that will cover PFAS as well as microplastics.
Bayan and Tim Binkosi, can you please put your question in the chat box, and we will review them and address after this meeting and incorporate that in the action plan. Thank you very much. And I do apologize for this. So mapping. So now, okay, very important. I would like to hear mapping people who are really knowledgeable on this. First one is clear. We're gonna review what is already written in soil pollution mapping methodology that was previously developed by Dave, who's here, and the co-authors. That will be reviewed. No questions. Then initiate discussion and develop the methodology to map soil pollution and identify data gaps in close cooperation with INSI, and capacity building program for a specific region on soil pollution mapping webinar for specific region or country. In a nutshell, do we all happy with those activities, specifically those who are knowledgeable in soil pollution mapping? If you have any questions or you think that's not possible, at least to initiate over the next 2 years, please step in. Do you have any questions? Because I know that you're quite knowledgeable in terms of soil pollution mapping. Do you agree with those initiations and activities?
Yeah, this looks good to me. I mean, if we don't have any other comments or suggestions, I think we can move along. I mean, we're kind of short on time.
And again, for mapping, we will organize.
I don't have any other. No.
For mapping team, we will organize. Again, we don't have the leader. We need to organize a close meeting with INSI, as you can see here, and discuss them and make a work plan and allocate the leader. That's definitely something on our agenda. Okay, if you have any comments,
or just one comment. I think we ought to recognize that this is not about us coming up with a global soil pollution map, and that's not feasible within the time frame that we have. National soil pollution maps means for certain countries, not every country.
That's for sure, Ravi. I remember before that we drafted global soil pollution map, and we discussed that with the team, with Natalia, that it's not feasible. Let's be realistic. And instead we put it national soil pollution maps for those countries where we have data and willing to share that data and help us to develop those maps. That's for sure, yes. Obviously, it would be ideal to have the global map, but let's be realistic, not at this stage.
And also the capacity building program, which is crucial.
That's right. Okay, Claudia Ainka. Now, I would like to hear your opinion and also opinion of others. This is the activities proposed. Again, the easiest one is the review technical guidelines on soil pollution monitoring chapter that myself, Bernd, Annabelle, and other co-authors are developing right now. Develop indicators and guidelines for assessing toxicity of soil pollution on human health. Analyze national soil legislation and identify the most common and minimal requirements addressing soil pollution. Help establish national legislations on soil pollution prevention, control, and remediation, and advocate for the inclusion of contaminant content in fertilizer label information sheet. Claudia, what do you think? Do you agree with all of this? And the other members who are participating here, please let us know.
Yeah, I think it's quite feasible because most of these activities, they are based on literature review. So we have to go and check what is there and put it together, and then see which are the indicators and guidelines and which one of them applies to, because we also need to think that we're global but regional. So we have to make the separation also when we are doing it, and we cannot lose focus on that. And lots of information we have already by the national chapters. And so it's going to be an intense literature review, but it is feasible.
Okay, that's good to hear your opinion. So if we all agree, then let's start working on those activities step by step and making a work plan how to address each of them. I mean, the first one will be shared with you once we finalize the guidelines, right, Bernd? And then we're going to move to the other 4 that we can address for the next 2 years. Any other questions, concerns? Okay. Moving on to our 2 leaders, Scott and so do you have a question or no?
No.
Okay. Moving to our newly elected leaders, I would like to hear your opinion and opinion of other 120 participants who are still here. Create the online database on best available techniques for managing and remedying polluted soils. We have NetSop network here that we're going to put in touch, all of us, because we need to start connecting and building our relationship with the NetSop members who are very knowledgeable in sustainability and biodiversity protection. Develop national capacities and strengthen technology transfer for remediation and sustainable management of polluted soils. And this is all about our phase 2 project on implementation of solutions and nature-based remediation techniques on reducing the risks of soil pollution in agricultural systems. Scott, Professor Wang, please step in and let us know if you agree with them, or other participants, you're more than welcome to step in and comment or add anything if you wish.
Well, for just having three rows of activities, it's still a pretty bold agenda because there's a lot within each of these. And I think one of the important things will be, especially for this first one, I mean, there's a lot of information that is out there. I mean, a lot of groups have put together, you know, numerous documents on various technologies. So being able to gather that, put it in one place and in a usable form, I think is going to be the challenge. So that will take a lot of thought and contribution from the entire group and beyond, but confident we can do that.
But it's needed, exactly.
Yeah.
Professor Wang, your comments on this?
Yeah, I think this is very important, but as Scott has mentioned, it needs to take a lot of effort. I think we also need to incorporate the people from all over the world, try to build up a really good database.
Mm-hmm.
And Sergejus, you have the contacts with NetSop. I'm sure that you'll be able to pass so that we can do that.
Absolutely. We're already in touch because they're actually helping us develop the indicators for biological indicators of soil monitoring system. I think we need to be in touch with Claudia as well, and Bernd is aware about those people. And I'm also trying to bring more NetSop members. I think some NetSop members are participating here. If you are, please identify yourself by raising your hand or something. But yeah, we will get in touch with NetSop people very soon. Day, any comments from chat box that you see?
Sergejus,
Ahmad, yes.
Is there any possibility of restructuring these sections that you already mentioned, including this one that is right now? Is there, or it is just fixed? It may be better to restructure it by the, you know, those people involved with this kind of pollutants I think is not well defined, all of this. You know, it starts that definition, what are soil pollutants and then going one by one is not very clear, this one. And if you agree, as I mentioned to yourself in our discussions, personal discussions, you know, we may need an in-person meeting, maybe in Rome or everywhere else, to make this at first clearly. What are pollutants generally, and where we have to start and go, and then for assessment and else. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. If we want to restructure, we can do that for sure, Ahmad. Nothing is fixed. We're very flexible, as I said. This is the network that works for you. If we're not happy, we need to sit together and restructure. But again, this is the proposed activity, not the work plan. For each activity, as Scott mentioned, we have a huge work to do, and each activity requires a lot of input. So we need to sit for each activity and make a work plan, because they're huge, right? If we're going to achieve that.
Yeah, and keep it focused. I mean, that's the becomes the problem. There's so many things to do that we're going to have to. Well, I mean, Ahmed, I think what you're getting at is that there's a lot out there, and some of these things need to be defined well so that we can stay on that. So that'll be certainly one of the tasks that we'll have to start doing.
Okay, perfect. Ravi, any comments?
No, just that Scott is indeed in FANG also. They have said it all, that these are pretty ambitious targets that we have here. And again, from remediation perspective, even for conventional remediation, there are contaminants that people have been working on for many years, and they still haven't been able to come up with remediation solutions. And there are countries where they do have databases for different remediation technologies. It won't be easy to bring them on board overnight, so it'll take a bit of effort. And I'm quite pleased that we have got two great leaders for this working group as well. The dot point 3 that we have there on nature-based remediation techniques, a case study from Trinidad and Tobago. So that's a work that's already ongoing. I guess that's something which we need to see how we can bring on board. And again, working with Scott and Fang, we should be able to do that.
Well, it is ongoing, and no, because for that to implement, you need to have like a basic, it's a field study, right? To implement that in practice. So that's what we would like to do, the actual field practices rather than the desktop. That's the next step, phase 2 that we call it.
And for sustainable remediation, for example, we already have international standards on that. Different countries have different things. So it is basically accessing this information and pulling that together as well. The key three words that develop national capacities, and that's crucial because that will require us being able to build capacities, and hopefully my target would be developing countries where we need this. So a few things for the two chairs to do.
So, Sergejus and Ravi, maybe I missed it earlier. What's the timing for these tasks? Do we have what are we looking at for these?
Sergejus has said 23, 24, and he also said that we can start these activities and that can continue. So Sergejus, did you like to comment on this?
Yeah, let's be realistic, Scott. A lot of those activities are long-term goals, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not achievable within a month or even a year. What we would like to do is initiate and do the start, at least. In the next 12 months, review what has been done, what are the challenges that we're facing, and revise those activities and adjust if it's needed to be adjusted if we're stuck by the challenges that we're facing.
So the key thing here, Sergejus, from my perspective, is that chairs chairs of working groups can't warm the chair that they have, but they could be very active to help deliver these as well.
Okay, I mean, we have actually we have 180 participants since the beginning. Yes. I'm sure a lot of them on the network will be growing from day to day. Obviously, our idea is to attract as many knowledgeable people who can help us achieve those activities as possible. Okay.
And also to add to the first item under remediation, I think we have already done some work on that. I mean, Natanya initiated some work on the remediation technology a few years ago. I remember we have written some chapters, and at least we have some drafts. So I just want to let Fan and Scott know that we started some work on that, and we have some drafts on certain techniques.
Yes,
That's
and,
right. We're not starting from the
uh,
scratch here. Yes.
No.
Right.
I think the key thing to note here is online database. So that's the crucial thing that we would like to deliver, and it's different from a guidance document. So to have a database that people can access and problem size that they have, we should then be able to map which one of the technologies that's included in the database would be useful for them.
Kind of with
Please,
with an eye on training, right? Because
Yes,
that's going to be that transfer, and that may be something that, from the calendar perspective, think we
Yes.
want to have some sort of training by this point, and then work toward that.
please excuse me. Other than contaminants themselves, that we mentioned from PCBs, mercury, everything that PFAS, other than pesticides, we have to consider also, we had lots of discussion about the metabolites. Every compound is broken into lots of metabolites, that's make billions of that compound that are sometimes more important than the main compound themselves. So metabolites, and then the interaction between all these type of pollutants and their metabolites with, for example, soil fauna. Then what are soil fauna really? Many insects and there are very, very interesting interactions between all these that can all be included in the soil pollution issues. So we have to at first to put a circle, around what we are going to do and what we want to plan.
I totally agree with you, Ahmad. I just want to make a comment, Ravi, that this will be discussed with the NetSop team. They're very knowledgeable in biodiversity protection, and they will help us a lot with this. That's very important. Thank you very much, Ahmad. Ravi?
Just yes, very, very quickly, Ahmad. Clearly, any decent remediation scientist or practitioner would take into consideration not just the parent compound, but also any metabolites or data products in coming up with remediation technology, remediation action plan. What I don't want to do is get into that much detail over here that that we're not able to get through the activities and deliverables for each of the working groups. Sufficient to say that the working group chairs would be on top of that, and indeed the database that they come up with and the guidance document that we come up with will capture all of those things that that you have mentioned.
Dalal, last question on this one.
It is not a question, it is a comment. If we want to create an online database on best available techniques for managing remediating polluted soils, do you know that more than half of the countries from southern world have not yet developed own soil information system? And if they don't have the national soil maps and soil database, how we can profit them to provide if we didn't yet generate the soil pollution maps? I mean, this is the first one. The second and last comment for today, in a study we are doing with FAO, regional action plan in the NENA region, we have 11 countries involved in the project. Only 5 from 11 countries have own legislation on soil pollution. Other countries don't have any legislation yet. So the problem is critical, I think.
So, Sergejus, may I respond to this?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Talal, first and foremost, thank you very much for your comment on the chat box. basically bringing to our attention that there are many countries that do not have any legislation. And to that end, I'm really pleased that Sergejus and I and the INSOP is we're working to see how we can bring together countries, for example, 6 small island countries. And here again, we're going to get input from them to figure out which countries have the legislation, the countries that don't have the legislation, and how INSOP could provide guidance to them. And we've also been looking at coming with a similar symposium for countries in Africa. And this is one thing that can't happen overnight, but I've been working on pollutants for nearly 30 years, and I have recognized that not every country would have environmental legislations on contaminants. The developed countries certainly do, and there are many developing countries that don't. And that's one of the roles that INSOP ought to play. Firstly, to see which countries don't have this legislation, and then how do we provide them support to help them come up with legislation. And therefore, the work that you're doing, supported by FAO, is crucial to help us in this on this front as well.
Yeah, excuse me, Sergejus and Professor Naidu. The legislative and regulations, they are everywhere. But the problem that we have been discussing in the past decade is the enforcement, especially in developing countries. No enforcement for these legislative and then regulations. And what we were also discussing in the past, I worked myself on synergistic effects. There are also some between all these type of chemicals, synergistic effects. They synergize each other in many times, and they metabolize. And cumulative effects that they have, or so many this kind of things could be also involved in the future discussions.
Thanks so much, Ahmad. Even with developed countries like US EPA, for example, or for European, for example, on Australia, when we have legislation, we don't take into consideration mixtures and see whether there are synergistic effects or not. The first thing is to see whether, and again, with developing countries, there's many developing countries do have legislation. Whether people adhere to that is another question. So that's something which we can't do. But the target is to see which countries have legislation, which don't, and how do we make certain that we provide them support so that those countries can also come up with that.
I'm aware about the Australia that you say. And now I'm in their list, that somebody called David, that there are a big discussion on the LinkedIn, that they have lots of, abuse now in Australia. Also, one important issue that we've been discussing yesterday, also that I was away from this, is an important issue of exporting lots of, hazardous chemicals, highly hazardous chemicals, lots of pesticides also, highly hazardous pesticides from Europe to developing countries is $1 billion. And now there are some NGOs, I'm included also, that they came just to work on this from Europe itself. But yesterday we did lots of this. I don't know how much serious are they. And I don't know when it's going to be to be stopped. It's all coming. Highly hazardous chemicals and pesticides exporting from, especially in particular from Europe to developing countries. And many, as I see, many people killed, for example, here in Iran, we have everybody.
Sorry to interrupt. As I'm moderating today's meeting, I realized that we are already exceeding we were originally planning to finish at 14 sharp, and now it's already over. So I think we need to move quickly through the rest of the agenda. Can I propose that for the items that you are interested in, we can discuss in future workshops? And I'd like to ask Ravi to move forward, quickly go through the next two activities, and then let's do the endorsement and wrap up as soon as possible.
Thanks so much, Deho. And I thought Sergejus was taking us through this. So we have the working group food quality and soil pollution working area. David O'Connor, may I invite you to have a look at the activities and deliverables. Firstly, whether you have any comments, any suggestions before we invite the rest of the delegates to consider the activities and let us know what their thoughts are. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you very much. I think the list focused on food quality and food safety, and there are lots of very meaningful and valuable activities to go through. I think the one food security and the impact of pollution on land quality and soil fertility. However, having said that, there are many good and a lot of work to do within the tasks that are already listed there. So that would be the one area that I would suggest, but at the same time, I'm very happy with the areas that have already been suggested.
So David, a question to you. Here, when we look at crop quality, means food quality, we are largely looking at diffuse soil pollution, for instance, and pollutant in the air as well. From diffuse soil pollution perspective, I can't see any country that has policies on diffuse soil pollution. Is this something that you believe this working group ought to consider?
Well, that's another very good question. And that also brings up the question of overlapping responsibilities between the different working groups, because that could easily fall under the assessment working group as well as this one. So perhaps that's a potential for collaboration, but we would need to decide which working group would lead on that.
Yes, and indeed, it's pretty closely linked to assessment. I know that some countries were considering diffuse soil pollution policy and something worth thinking about, and perhaps the two working groups could come together and see how we can, and whether we need to progress that as well.
Yes, I think collaboration there is the key to decide where it fits best and to push forward under the leadership of one of the groups.
Thanks so much. Now it's open to the rest of the delegates. Do you agree with the activities that we have? Is there anything that we need to remove or add to these? Please raise your hands. If you're happy with this, then we can move forward to the next working group. Chats, can I just have a look at what you have in the chats?
And also, as mentioned, food quality working group participants who are interested, we will organize the separate workshop just to discuss and make a work plan how to address this together with David and other delegates. And lastly,
Okay, so this is the soil and water interaction working group. We do not have a working group leader for this one. So this is open to delegates now to have a look at the activities that we have. The first one, SOPs, the standard operating procedure for measuring leaching potential of soil pollutants, assessment of soil pollutants prone to leaching and risks they have to groundwater, the post-groundwater, identification of indicators relevant to groundwater assessment affected by soil pollutants, and address and strengthen environmental components of the One Health approach that was presented to us by the Deputy Director of FAO. So open for discussion, comments, delegates? Nothing in the chat.
And again, for the SOPs for measuring leaching potential of soil pollutants, I think, Ravi, we need to liaise with the GLOSALAN members as well, who can help us to at least first identify the laboratories who have the capacity to perform this
Yes,
analysis.
that's right. Absolutely. This again, I must emphasize that INSOP does collaborate with other FAO, UN FAO networks, and Glossaland is the other one that we collaborate with, led by INSOP, but input from other networks as well.
I think we have some Glossaland members participating in this team. And if Glossaland members, if you have any knowledge about the SP for measuring leaching potential of soil pollutants, please feel free to step in and provide your comments, whether it's feasible and about the lab capacities that are available that you may be aware of.
And equally, we have scientists who have been working on leaching potential for soil pollutants. If they have any comments to come forward, please. I know many of them with us who have been working on this as well.
That's right.
I don't see any chats, any comments in the chats, so I just believe that the delegates have accepted. They're signing off on these activities, Deho, so we could move forward.
We have Professor Rank. Perhaps you have any comments?
Where do you see that? I don't see that.
I think this is good plan. Actually, some of my work is also was involved like that, antibiotic resistance and also the transfer of the pollutants in the soil and the groundwater and even to the food chain. So I think these are quite good plan. And if there's other nobody working on it, I can also help on this.
And this working group will have to closely align with the remediation working group as well, because soil and water interactions underpin remedial work as well.
And indeed, and myself, I need to clearly design much better how strategically we can approach One Health approach and what difference we can bring in terms of soil pollution. Because AMRs, for example, is a huge topic related to soil pollution. We heard yesterday from our deputy director. I think we need to design a work plan now how we can address that together with the One Health approach. That's something that I will take responsibility to develop.
And in Australia, we have a center of excellence that focuses entirely on antimicrobial resistance, funded for 10 years. So we could get some information from there as well to provide support.
Excellent.
Okay, so we move forward. Deho, over to you.
Yeah, Ravi, I think we have finished all the items for today. So we are moving toward the end of our 3-day annual meeting. And now I'd like to ask our INSOP chair, Professor Ravi Naidu, to wrap up and give a closing remark. Ravi.
Thanks very much, Deho. Sergejus, did you want to add anything before I sum up and close the workshop?
Well, my first point is to thank to all of you who participated and are interested in soil pollution topic. We're really looking forward to liaise with you all. Next step, we have tremendous activities to perform. So next step is for us to formulate the participants and the delegates for each who wants to be allocated to what working group and work together in the work plan, because as was emphasized by Ahmad, by Scott, by others, that each activity will require a lot of steps designed, careful steps designed. And we will do that starting from today. We will start formulating those working groups as soon as possible. For each working group, there will be a plan of activities, workshops, etc. And also a lot of activities that we need to perform will require some resources as well, because one thing is to sit in a Zoom meeting and do some desktop studies, and a completely different reality when we want to perform some meaningful results in the field. And for that, we will need to resource mobilizations, and we're always open for opportunities for that. Resource mobilization is a key for the network and for the society to make a difference. So we're also very looking to collaborate with all of you. With academia, we have a lot of representatives from academia here, but also with the private sector, businesses are necessary to understand the issues of soil pollution, and as well the government. Only when all these three pillars will participate together, we will make a difference. Well, that's my summary in a nutshell. I wish I'd like to say thank you very much to all of you. And Professor Naidu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sergejus. Both you and Dai have made my work really easy, because you have Daiho did a fantastic job summing up the last 2 days of presentations, and you did sum up the 3 days of presentations, and indeed the election outcomes and the roles that chairs will play. I just wanted to bring to your attention that in 2017, the United Nations Environmental Assembly recognized the extent of soil contamination and its major threat to soil health, including the broader ecosystem, and of course the impact that it can have on potential and human health as well. And that led to a resolution that was adopted by 100 countries that there ought to be an accelerated action to address and manage soil pollution. And you all would agree with me that once contaminants are present in soil, they're not easily removed. They stick to soils, and some of these contaminants in farm soils could also bioaccumulate in crops, for example, and thus impacting food quality. And when you have precipitation, some of these could leach and also pose risks to groundwater. And hence the Global Soil Partnership that we have recognized these challenges, recognized the United Nations Environmental Assembly resolution, and launched INSOP, which is one of several networks that was launched over the last few years. INSOP is only 15 months old, and over 15 months we have noticed on Monday's presentation how much we have delivered. And looking ahead, there's so much more that we do need to deliver, and that can only be delivered provided we are able to work together, not just the scientists, not just scientists and engineers only, but also the regulatory jurisdictions, because it's the jurisdictions that come up with the policies. The policies need underpinning by sound science, and these often are quite feasible, particularly with developed countries. And our task is to see how we can reach out to developing countries and build capacities. And therefore, the 6 working groups that we have, it is not just that the working group are tasked to coming up with guidance documents, for example, but also creating awareness, being able to build capacity in developing countries such that we have more than one pair of hands, conducting research, assessing soils, delivering the soil maps that we want, and in doing so, ensuring sustainability of the environment and also our future generations. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for your participation. I would like to thank Sergejus and Natalia. They both worked really hard to pull together this workshop, and indeed my deputy chair, who has been absolutely outstanding as well. To the chairs who have been elected, we're going to work closely with you. As I mentioned to you, that we do look for chairs to deliver. Dynamism is what we are looking for from you, and I do realize that that all of you who have been elected, you will deliver just that. So I'm looking forward to working with you, along with Daiho, my deputy chair, and also secretary, Sergejus and Natalia. So with that, I'll close the workshop, and I look forward to interacting with all of you going forward. Good night to those who are in this part of the world, and trust rest of you would have a good day outside beyond Australia and Europe and US as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Night. Sergejus, bye. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Day, can we meet for recap
Yes.
meeting in 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Serge, could you save the chat box? I haven't found how to figure out how to save the chat box. I think
It will be
Yeah,
saved
it's
automatically,
safe.
yeah.
It's safe, and I will share it
Okay.
with you. Yeah.
Thanks so
great.
much. And Sergejus, are you going to send us the new link for?
I will send a new link